Welcome to your Genetic Drift Lab. I am your instructor, Vanessa. So I'm going to walk you through how you're going to do your Genetic Drift Lab. So you should have already watched your pre-lab videos explaining what genetic drift is, and we've also covered this in our lecture series. So if you want to go ahead and review that before attempting your lab. So with your genetic drift, just know when we're talking about evolution, evolution is a matter of chance, and it has to do with genetic mutation. It happens to be a happenstance of genetic mutation. So natural selection is the way nature will select individuals that are most fit for their environment to basically be good in their environment and have more kids, and then those kids will have those genes of the parents that had those great genes to survive in their environment. So with that, genetic drift is different. Genetic drift is a matter of chance. It's a matter of happenstance. For example, it doesn't have to do with nature selecting against an individual. It would have to do with just something happening in the area that could affect a population. Like, for example, natural disasters. A natural disaster can just indiscriminately wipe out several members of a population. So that's a perfect example of happenstance or chance. And so another example is disease. When you get overpopulation of different types of organisms, you sometimes get disease just running rampant through population. And so that can actually knock out a lot of individuals in the population in a very large capacity. So when that happens, what happens is the gene pool within the population can actually bottleneck. So you could have a population that has a gene pool of lots of different possible genetics. Then when individuals get wiped out and your population numbers go down, you end up with a smaller number of possible genetics. It is from those individuals that the new population will be made. So when that new population is made and the population has a lot more individuals, you're going to find at the end of the bottleneck, you're going to have less variability within that gene pool. And so that can actually be very damaging to a population, because the more genetic variation you have, the healthier a population can be, because they're more likely to withstand different changes. They're more likely to find different niches and different environments that they can go ahead and be successful in. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my whiteboard here, and I have two different colors of Skittles. On one of the videos that I make available for you, he explains, that would be Bozeman Science, Paul Anderson. He explains how redhead versus blonde, and so or he says redhead or non-redhead, and how he calls the non-redhead, they would have the dominant alleles versus a redhead would have the two recessive alleles. So the thing you need to keep in mind is when we talk about the genetics, each individual has two alleles for a specific gene. Okay, so a redhead has two alleles for a redhead gene. They got one allele from one of their parents and the other allele from the other parent. And because they got two redhead alleles, they are going to be redheaded. So a non-redheaded person, you don't really know if they have two of the same alleles or not. So a non-redheaded person at least has one allele that is for non-red hair. And so since having alleles for non-red hair is dominant, it will go ahead and show. Please review that video from Bozeman Science to get another quick peek at that. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and use today red Skittles and yellow Skittles. So here are my supplies. Here are my 40 red Skittles and my 40 yellow Skittles. I also have myself a cup. I specifically chose this cup for Jurassic World, Mosasaurus, yeah, because I figured we're going to make a gene pool with this cup, so I just like having that one as my cup. So I have made us a little key. And so if you can see at the top of the key, I told you what alleles. So the yellow candy is going to represent non-red hair. It is a dominant trait, and it's going to be depicted by a big R. I chose this because that is how Bozeman Science chose his, because specifically we were talking about a redhead gene or not. The red candy is going to represent red hair. It is a recessive allele, so it's going to be little r. And so as you can see, the combinations that I have made, if you have big R, you have two non-red hair alleles, you're going to have non-red hair. If you end up having big R, little r, well, even though you have a redhead allele, you still have a non-redhead allele. And since a non-redhead allele is dominant over having a redheaded allele, you're still going to have non-red hair. It's not until you get little r, two red-headed alleles, that you're going to have a red-headed individual. So I'm going to pull back so you can see my entire board. I think you can see it. I'm not tall enough to see that you could see it. Oh, very good. I thought it would be cool to go ahead and group them together, just like they were individuals, so we can see. And I randomly just put these together and drew circles around them. You don't need to count them. I just thought it was kind of cool. So when you look over here, upper left-hand corner, you have a redhead allele, non-redhead allele, so you are going to have a non-redhead individual. Below that, two yellows, non-redhead. To the right, non-redhead. Above that, non-redhead, even though they are a carrier for the redheaded gene. Let's move on to down here. Oh my gosh, we got to my upper left-hand corner, we have two redhead alleles, two recessive genes come together to make a redheaded person. And so the same to the right, the same to the bottom. So in this little group of four, we have three redheads, and then we have one non-redhead that is a carrier of redhead. Now, I'm not going to go over this entire board. I just thought it would be really cool. So these are my 40. These are my 40 different individuals. There are 80 candies here total. So you're supposed to have 40 candies of each type. So because you don't know which of these individuals are going to mate with the other individuals, they are all going to go into the gene pool. So just go ahead and get them into the gene pool. And those are your red and non-redhead head alleles within a population. So here's your gene pool. You can see all of your colors in there. You can hear them. So I want you to go ahead and mix them around really good. Blindly reach in. And you're going to start just picking out whatever. Do not look. Do not look, okay? So I'm going to blindly reach in. I won't make you listen to every single bit of it. But I'm going to go ahead and pick out 20 candies. So in this next generation, generation number 2, you can see that from the generation number 1 gene pool, and I also made some changes to my board, so make your changes and make sure it looks like this one versus the last one. If your generation column, 1 through 10 generations, you may or may not get to 10 generations, but if you do, you can stop. Total alleles, okay? So your total alleles for generation number 1, we started with 80 alleles, right? 40 yellow, 40 red. And so I also want you to, this says yellow and percent. So the percent, well, 50% of them, 40 is 50% of 80. And then this is 40 is 50% of 80. And so going on to the last column, ratio, that's a 50-50 ratio or a 1-to-1 ratio. Why don't you keep it big for now, and then we'll work on it and get little. So my next generation, when I pulled out the individuals that got to survive to the next generation, I only got 20 individuals to survive out of the 80 to the next generation, because that's how nature works. I know we're talking about redheaded people, but we're just going to go ahead and go with it. So I have 16 here. Wait, say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Excuse me. I have 12 here, and then I have 2, 4, 6, 8 here. And so we're going to go ahead and update our table. But here's the deal. Don't you think these guys are going to have babies? If these guys don't have babies and everybody keeps dying off, then we have problems. Okay, so I have updated our table. What I did is I took those dead alleles from those dead individuals that were in the gene pool, and I just dumped them. So for our game, we're going to pretend like they are just dead and buried and they're gone. They are eaten by some type of prey, something. And I'm just going to use those Skittles for the next exercise. So just be clear on that. The Skittles that I use for the next exercise are not the ones from the previous generation. The only ones that got to survive are these ones. You had 12 of the yellow, you had 8 of the red. So we had 20 alleles. Now 20 alleles, if you recall, is only 10 individuals because each individual has 2 alleles. So those 10 individuals got together, and between them, you only have 12 of yellow and then 8 of the red. So they're going to go into the gene pool. Those 10 individuals go into the gene pool. Boom. And they're going to have some babies. Okay? Well, we need to go to the baby maker machine and just grab some extra Skittles. I'm not looking. I'm just going to go ahead and grab six of them. I'm not even looking. Okay? I promise. 1, add them to the gene pool. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go for 8. Yeah, let's do it. 7, 8. Okay. Now I'm choosing these numbers arbitrarily because I want you guys to not have to have like 100 Skittles of each to start. So, alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those options. And then now I have our next generation. So if you recall, our generation number 2 had 20 alleles. So that's only 10 individuals. Okay. We ended up having 4 babies. Between those 10 people, we only had 4 babies because not everybody's going to be fertile. So that's going to give you 8 alleles total. So if I count this out right, we're going to be having the 20 alleles plus the 8. I should have 28 alleles. Let's see if I did a good job. So let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Put that like that. 12 and 13. In your generation number 3, you're going to have 28 individuals. Boom. 28 individuals. So with that, do you think all 28 individuals are going to get to survive? Nah, we gotta cause some problems here. You're only going to get to keep half. So let's go ahead. Let me make sure I write my numbers down so I don't forget. I had 15 and 13. So 15, 13. Figure out your ratios. Don't use my ratios. You should be doing yours. So 15 divided by 28, that's my percent. And then 13 divided by 28, that'll be my percent. So throw these new individuals back into the gene pool. And you're probably like, well, why does she only allow me to keep half? Well, really, depending on the organism, some organisms don't live to reproduce more than once, and they have very short lifespans. Okay, let's go ahead and choose our generation number 4. Remember, we only get 14 individuals out of the gene pool. 14 alleles out of the gene pool. So only 7 individuals from this generation get to come to this generation. 7. So let's count out 14 alleles. Very good. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 yellow against 4. We really do we're sticking with that 60-40 a lot. These individuals, they didn't make it to the next generation, so I'm just dumping them in the pile. Alrighty. Wow, this is very interesting, and that's why it's chance. A lot of times you're going to see this go away completely. Sometimes you don't see it go away completely. So let's go ahead and write down our new numbers. These guys we're going to go ahead and follow suit like we did before. If you recall, we started out with 80 individuals, but only a quarter of them made it to the next generation, right? Then, of those, I said 80 individuals, 80 alleles, so 40 individuals. And so only a quarter of them made it to that next generation. And then so from there, we ended up with 8 additional alleles because these 10 individuals had 4 babies. So since they had 4 babies, there's 8 alleles in the population. And so when we went from this generation, a bunch of them died. They got old and died. Only 50% made it to the next generation. So with that, this generation here is going to experience, they're going to have some babies. We'll go ahead. Actually, we'll leave them alone. We'll let them have a couple of babies. But this is 14 alleles, meaning it's only 7 individuals. Well, 7 individuals. I think that before we let them have 4 babies, I think they should only get 2 babies. What do you think? Yeah, I'm going to turn my head. I'm going to grab 2 babies out of here. 1, 2. I'm sorry. 3, 4. There, that's 2 babies. 4 alleles is 2 babies. Alrighty. Oh, I forgot to do my percentages. All right, let's go ahead and see what generation number 5 is going to look like. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So we have 11 yellow. And then we have 2, 4, 6, 7 of your red. Boom, there's your new number 18. This next generation, they're going to have a loss of at least 4 individuals. So 4 individuals means they're going to lose 10 alleles out of the, they're going to lose 8 alleles out of the population. There's going to be 10 alleles left in the population. So let's take our alleles. So you're probably wondering, like, why am I killing off this population? So here's the deal. This is nature. And there has been an ecological disturbance. And with that ecological disturbance is going to, it's going to lower the number of individuals in this population. So let's go ahead and choose our 10 out of our gene pool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, that is amazing. Okay. So let's write down our numbers, 5 and 5. 5 alleles of yellow, 5 alleles of red, taking the percent back to a 50-50. Man, these guys better get to having some babies. So far we've killed some people, we've had some babies, we've killed them, we've had babies, we've killed them. We're going to have some babies. And that's the way a lot of organisms work in nature. Not all organisms are going to have babies every single year. So I kind of followed that type of a pattern. And so we got a 50-50 ratio here. So these guys grew up. We got to get rid of got to dump the ones that died. Okay. Put our 10 in here that survived. Man, so those 10 alleles are really 5 individuals that survived. So those 5 individuals that survived, they are struggling. But what do you say those 5 individuals that survive are going to have 4 babies between them? That's one each. I think that sounds fair. So if they have 4 babies between them, then that means we need to give them 8 alleles. From our station, I looked up while I was getting the Skittles. I'm looking around. I don't even know what they are, but you do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 alleles. Sorry, you keep seeing the top of my head. Let's see what happens. We're on generation number 6. Remember, I told you could go to generation number 10 or before you zero out, where one is completely 0 and the other one is completely, so basically your ratio would be 100 to 0. So let's see what we have here. our new numbers. Generation 7 on my board. There's only so far I can go because my board's not that big. Generation number 7. So we had 10. I told you that they were going to get to have 4 babies, so I added 8. We took that population back up to 18. What just happened? That is crazy cool. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7 yellow. Let's write that down so I can move this over. We have 7 yellow. And then now we have, looks like the recessive genes are taking over. 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. 7 to 11. So did you know that recessive alleles are dominant alleles are not always the most prevalent in a population? Perfect example of that is Huntington's disease or polydactyly. Polydactyly is having more than 5 digits on one finger. That's actually to have polydactyly, that is actually a dominant trait. So we are all holding the recessive combinations. Alrighty, so I hope you got the gist of how this is going to go. I'm going to go ahead and let you go through the same trend. So I finished up your table for you. I tried to stick with the trends. Just coincidentally, I chose an individual that has reproduction every other year, that has a good reproduction every other year. As you can see here, we started with 80 alleles. That means there was 40 individuals because each individual has 2 alleles. But the next generation, there must have been a huge ecological disturbance here. Okay, it made the population smaller and bottlenecked it. So we ended up with 20 alleles, which is only 10 individuals. So basically, we took this population by 20% down. We took it down 25%, excuse me. So that next generation, they had their babies because it was a population of 10. They only had themselves 4 babies. So since they had 4 babies, we had to give them 8 alleles, 2 for each baby, add it to the previous population. And then just following the trend of every other year, losing a big part of the population because of age, but we're not having babies every single year. I took it down by 50%. Okay. So from there, these 14 alleles, remember that's 7 individuals, they got together and they only had a couple of babies. And so with that, those 2 babies are 4 alleles. We added it to it, and then you had 18 alleles for that generation number 5. Then that generation number 5, just because of old age and predators and such, got down from 18 alleles to 10 alleles. So we had 9 individuals in the population, and that went down to 5 individuals in a population. So those 5 individuals in this generation, they got together to mate, and between the 5 of them, they had 4 kids. So that's why we added 8 alleles to it. Okay? But look at this. That's why I turned off the camera so you can see what I did here. This is 18. So we went from 18 to 18. They're having a particularly good year. So I'm telling you what happened here is they were able to get through their environment. They were able to evade predators. They were able to find enough food for themselves to survive. And maybe I should over-exaggerate when I say particularly good year, but I guess in comparison, yeah. But they were able to survive. They did not have a death drop-off. But that was at a cost, and that cost was a reproductive cost. So they did not lose any individuals in the population, but they had a reproductive cost, meaning they didn't have any additional babies. So I decided to go ahead and keep that generation the same, okay? And any individuals in this generation, for the next generation, I decided to add 4 babies to them. So 4 babies is 8 alleles. So it went from 18 to 26. And then those 26 alleles to the next population, they only lost 3 individuals. So it looks like the environment is getting a little better. things are happening a little better from this original disturbance that took place up here that literally took the population down. Like 25% of them were left from the original. So there's a little bit of recovery taking place down here. So I purposely did that. So no need for you to figure out your own. Follow what I have in terms of total alleles. 80, 20, 28, 14, 18, 10, 18, 18, 26, 20. And that should be good for all of the candy that you have, because I had plenty of leftover candy. And so let's see how your chart looks and if you end up getting very similar results to me. I hope you have fun with that.